It's a gear tester here, and in this video I want to give you my initial impressions of the Rowan ESEE JG3. This is a sweet little fixed blade knife, and it is little. It's not a large fixed blade knife. It is a compact fixed blade knife that I got into my possession 4 days ago, and I've been enjoying using it for a number of different tasks. So I just want to talk about my initial impressions about this knife. I've been working on a little tri-stick here. Here's some different notches, and it's been relatively easy to carve these notches in, as you would expect from a correctly heat-treated 1095 blade. I like the handle. It fits my hand well. In some ways I kind of wish there was a little more handle up here, and at the same time it does allow for you to pinch your hand there and do more precise cutting, and then you can really clamp down on the back of the knife, and the knife swells nicely here and is very ergonomic in terms of the way the human hand works. You need a little more meat down here, and it's okay for this to be thinner up here, and so you can really push through even though there's not a very pronounced guard of any kind here to stop your hand from slipping up on the blade. What I find is if you lock down your pinky, your last two fingers, okay, if you lock them down, your hand does not want to slip forward. You kind of have this little groove right there that acts as kind of a sub-hilt, okay, similar to a kukri. A lot of kukris, traditional kukris from Nepal, have kind of a band, and that acts as a sub-hilt. So it's doing a similar kind of thing there. So here's the traditional sub-hilt on a kukri, and this is really a tourist version that has been much used and abused by me in my childhood, and now I've retired it. It still has some useful life left in it, but I want to make sure I don't damage it. This is that sub-hilt, and when you grab it and wrap your pinky around it, if you were to stab or thrust with this thing, it really locks your hand in there. So I just want to give you guys a little close-up look of that. And the JG3, the way the handle is designed, it does a similar thing, probably not as effectively as the kukris do, but you're not going to, this is a much smaller knife, you're not going to be really hacking and doing crazy stuff with where the sub-hilt is really that beneficial to you. But you can see there, right, that when you lock your hand into that, it locks your hand in, and your hand's not going to slide off, and it's not going to slide forward, okay? Now, I do believe that you could definitely stab hard enough, okay, with this knife, and especially if your hand is not squeezing the blade hard, if you're just kind of holding it limply and stabbing it, I definitely think you can slide your hand up and cut your hand on the blade. But that's one thing that I don't like about this knife, if I'm just going to be honest, is the sharpened back spine. And I've been guilty of sharpening the spine on a couple of my other knives from ESEE because I kind of got on that bandwagon. And you know, people love it in the bushcraft community for using it to strike their fire steels and things, and it certainly will really throw good sparks. It is very, very sharp. What I don't like about it is you can see right here this transition onto the blade. The problem is when I put my hand up there to do finer cutting tasks, it doesn't cut me, but I find that after 40 minutes of carving, that even 25 minutes of carving, that pushing down like that causes my thumb to become kind of bruised, and so I'll likely remove or bevel the edges here up about an inch. Okay, the same here on the tip. This is a very, very, very sharp 90-degree spine, and what happens is when I'm doing some cutting tasks, particularly when you're trying to do little notches like a pot holder notch here, trying to get into that groove, I find that it's easier and more controllable if I put my thumb here up on the back of the blade and push through, okay? The problem is after I've done that, again, just 10 minutes of doing that, my thumb felt bruised for the rest of the day. And so what I wish is that this portion of the spine right there had been sharpened, and that this had been left unsharpened, not a 90 degree and not a 90 degree here. The other thing that I wish is, I know people are really hot on this oxide coating that ESEE's doing. I personally would prefer the standard powder coat. I think the standard powder coat does a better job of protecting the blade. I've got a Rowan manufactured RC4 that I've had for almost 9 years, and the coating has held up really well. Maybe there's something I'm not understanding about that coating that people don't like. I plan on using this knife to process, well, I'm going to go fishing, process some game if I am lucky to catch some fish, and then hopefully this fall use it to skin out some big game. So I'm just going to continue doing some carving here. In terms of the one thing that I do like about the sharpened 90-degree spine is that you are able to use it to scrape, okay? And so it would allow you, I guess, in a survival situation to minimize wear and tear on your blade by being able to do some of these tasks like this to just remove bark from green branches. You could even use it to scrape dry bark and things to make a tinder bundle. And if you did what I'm doing here and you waited a day or two, that would, these little shavings would definitely be dry enough to use to start a fire. Now that doesn't get a fire today, but you should be thinking your next 2 fires, I guess, in my mind. So overall, I'm quite satisfied with this knife. I have 2 other ESEE knives. I've got the ESEE 2, which is similar in size to this, but the blade is actually a little bit thicker. And one thing the primary reason that led me to purchase this JG3 is the fact that it had a thinner blade spine. I think it's an 1/8 of an inch thick, and I really like that. It just allows me to move through material faster, better. It's still robust enough that it's not going to be a problem. The ESEE 2 is a little bit thicker blade, and it's a stouter, smaller blade. I like this 3-inch blade. I like the size of the handle. It fits well in my hand. I'm not super impressed with the sheath that this came with. It comes with a leather sheath. I wish it came with Kydex, and I don't know why ESEE is not manufacturing Kydex sheaths for their entire camp lore line. What it means is I pay $110, $120 for a knife, and then I've got to pay $40 or $50 more for a Kydex sheath. You know, they need to create a line of sheaths for their camp lore line similar to the ones that are on the RC3, RC4, RC6, and the ESEE and the ESEE 2. There's no reason to not have done that. And the leather sheath I've modified here, and in my full review I will show you the modifications that I've done to this sheath to make it a little bit better. And so it's now it's functional, but I don't like a sheath that the knife can fall out of. A sheath has 3 main purposes in my view. The first is to protect you, the user, from the knife when you're not using it. So to be able to put it away. The second is for that sheath to hold the knife securely enough that it's not going to accidentally fall out so you don't lose your tool. And the third thing that you really have to emphasize is that the sheath then attaches easily and effectively to you, the user. So it's got to protect you from the blade when you're not using it. It's got to hold the blade securely enough that you don't lose it and it doesn't fall out and hurt you. Okay, and then the third point is that it needs to attach easily and effectively to the user. And this sheath didn't really do those things. It attached easily just with a belt loop, but I modified that, and then there was not enough retention. I mean, you just slide in here and it comes right out. That's worthless. I'm going to lose this knife in one outing. In 4 hours of hiking, this knife will be gone if I didn't modify the sheath. So I'll talk about the ways in which I modified that sheath in my full review, but the point I just want to emphasize, the sheath is not good quality. It's fine leather, it's nice stitching, but it has no true retention, and that's ridiculous. I just want to show you the quality sheaths that have come with my other ESEE knives. This is my ESEE 2, well used and very much beloved by me. And this is the little sheath that it comes with. Just got a little belt clip, a metal belt clip, and I use that a lot. I actually run my belt through it here and then press the whole thing against my body, similar to an inside the waistband holster, except it's not inside the waistband, it's just pressed against me. So this side presses against my body. You can see there's been quite a bit of wear on those little brass fittings, and then the clip my belt runs through like that. And I find that people don't notice I have it on it. And listen to the retention here. I mean, that is solid. And this is what appears to be an injection molded sheath, and I think you can buy them for $15. And I would love to see that for this knife, the JG3. I mean, that would, I can't tell you how happy that would make me. I know there are custom Kydex companies out there, but I actually prefer these molded, injection molded sheaths because they do better in the heat. And when the company that's manufacturing the knife mass produces it, it lowers the overall price of the sheaths. Here is my original, the first ESEE or rat cutlery knife that I purchased, and this is the RC4. Okay, so this is an RC4. Now you can buy it SE4. Same knife, manufactured in the USA and made by Rowan there as well. Okay, and you can see that I have tried to sharpen. I didn't do a very good job, but tried to sharpen the spine here, and you can see that I left the first inch or so free so that when I get my thumb up there for more precise cutting tasks, that I'm not onto that sharpened edge. Okay, so and here's the sheath. Listen to this. Not coming out. And then you've got a strap here to lock it in, making sure that it's secured inside the sheath correctly, and then you have a elastic loop. Okay, so that when you put it like that, that knife is not coming out of that sheath, and then it has a very simple attachment system to your belt, so it goes on and off easily, and it's even MOLLE compatible. I want this kind of a system for the JG3 and the rest of the Camp Lore line, and that would make me so happy. And really, if you're looking for a good 4-inch bladed fixed blade knife, I cannot recommend the SE4 more highly to you. It's a little bit thicker, okay, and that's where in some tasks, especially processing meat, I find that the thinner blade like this works better of the JG3, but this is still very functional, and you can do good, solid, hard work with this one as well, but it is more durable because it's a little bit thicker. But that's what, using these two knives, same thing with the ESEE, the Izula 2, is that both these blades are marginally, I believe, thicker than this one in terms of the stock, and so I'm very happy with the JG3 in terms of the way it cuts through things. So when it comes to the knife, though, I really like this knife, and I'm very happy that I purchased it, and will continue to use it, and it's going to become one of my primary fixed blade knives that I use. I tend to, in years past, I tended to really like the bigger knives. Okay, knives with a 6, 7, or 8-inch blade, something like the K-bar knives, the Becker BK9, BK7, things like the RTAC 2 or the Junglist. Okay, large bladed knives, kukris. I really like kukris, and I still love large bladed knives, but what I found is for my personal use when I'm out camping, backpacking, I found that a good quality fixed blade knife of this size, okay, is quite useful. And then when I pair it with something like this mini Gransfors Brooks mini hatchet, what happens is I've got all my chopping tasks. I can do that really well. In fact, recently I chopped through a 12-inch log. Me and one of my friends did that with this little tiny, I mean, this weighs less than 14 ounces, and it chops way better than any 14-ounce knife. Simply a matter of physics. All the weight is here. When you have a blank piece of steel that then is sharpened, a lot of the weight gets dispersed down here by your handle. Physics just allows you to use a hatchet better. And when I see people taking knives and batoning the living daylights out of a little knife like this, I'm just left wondering why you don't get yourself a hatchet, because that's what you're making it. I still use batoning. I'm not completely opposed to batoning. I use batoning to be more precise, to do things like cut out blanks for making bow drill sets or the bow drill board. But just putting a good quality fixed blade knife into some big thick chunk of wood and just hammering through is just asking to break it. And so I pair something like this JG3 with a nice little hatchet, or my Gransfors Brooks small forest axe, or one of my other tools, and it works great. But I really like to pair a good quality fixed blade sturdy little knife like this with a good quality chopping tool like an axe or a hatchet. Anyway, there you go. I'm really happy with my purchase. The oxide finish is interesting. This is my first interaction with ESEE's oxide finish, and it'll be interesting to see how that wears for me. If you like this video, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel for more quality video reviews on the topics of shooting, camping, and survival gear. This is the Gear Tester signing off.